Today we are going to remove and replace the starter from a 2011 Ford Fusion. Now my starter is starting to go. When I start the car, it is not retracting all the way, so the starter is hitting the flywheel and there's a metal on metal grinding for a couple seconds, which isn't good. So we're going to replace the starter out to fix that. The starter is physically located just about under here, and to get to that, the steps involved today are going to be removing the battery, unhooking the battery, removing the battery from the car, removing the battery tray that's underneath there, and then we'll have access to where the starter is, somewhere down in there. Here are the tools that were used today to do this. Alright, and the first step is to disconnect the battery, and then after that we're going to remove it. Always disconnect the negative terminal first, the uncovered one there. We're going to disconnect that, and also to be safe, we're going to wrap it in a paper towel, or you could use a shop towel as well, just to make sure it doesn't make contact with the battery again. So always remove the negative battery terminal first, followed by the positive. It's going to be just an 8mm wrench used on the sides to undo the terminals there. Once we have both terminals off and disconnected, we can lift up the little cushion shield here, whatever that does. And then on the side, holding the battery in place, you can just see it in here somewhere, sorry I'm not a professional photographer, is another bolt there. That bolt holds the battery in place, and that is a 8mm. We're just going to use a socket on a hand-turned screwdriver and remove that 8mm bolt. Out comes a little plastic piece that holds the battery in place, and then we can remove the whole battery and set that aside. Once we remove the tray for the battery, the next step is accessing the starter and removing that. There are going to be two nuts that hold the wires to the starter, so we're going to undo both of those to remove the wires that are connected to the car to the starter. Undo both of those nuts. Then there are going to be two 1/2-inch bolts that we'll use a breaker bar to remove, or to at least loosen those bolts, and then use a 1/2-inch socket to remove them. Alright, now that we've removed the battery, we have the battery tray in the way of being able to get behind there to get to where the starter is. There's going to be one bolt and two nuts. These are all 10mm, so use a 10mm there, and also would be best if you had a deep socket 10mm. You can get away with it with a wrench here, which is what I'm going to do because I don't have the proper socket. Probably easier if you have the right tools, but if you get in there just right, you can get away with getting this removed with a 10mm wrench. Once you remove the one bolt and the two nuts, it's a matter then of lifting the tray out. There are going to be a couple of the battery cables that are wire tied or clipped to this. They're just push-on connector clips. Grab a flathead screwdriver here. So you can see the plastic clip underneath, and we're just going to pop that out gently. And there's going to be a couple more connected as you try and remove the battery tray. Success, we have removed the battery tray, and now we can actually see where the starter is, and that's this guy right here. Don't panic, it looks like it's tough to get to, but it's actually not that bad. So to get to it, a couple things we're going to do. We're going to pop up the wire clips on here just to make it a little bit easier to access and flex these cables around. These are just like the other plastic ones. We're just going to pry up and pop under there. It'll be easier for me to do with two hands. Then the next step after that is to remove, and this can move around a little bit, is to remove the two nuts that are attaching the wires to the starter. This one is going to be a 10mm, and then the other one is hiding under this little rubber boot, and what I found is a 1/2-inch wrench seems to work for that one. So 10mm for the small one, and 1/2-inch standard wrench for the larger nut. So we're going to pop these two clips, remove those two nuts, and hopefully not drop them into the engine, and we'll check in from there. We've removed both the nuts from the wires, so the next step is to take the wires off and set them aside. If you have sandpaper, this would probably be a good idea to sand the underside of the connector here, since hopefully you're never going to have to do this again, so make sure you get a nice clean connection on the new starter. So there, we've disconnected both wires. The next step now is to remove the 2 bolts that hold this in. This is the fun part. Not really. You can see one of them there. Get my finger out of the way. So that's going to be one of them right there. That one's fairly easy to access. The other one is going to be on the right side as we work on here. Back behind there. You can feel it. You can't see it. It's back there somewhere though. To get these off, we're going to use a 1/2-inch socket on a breaker bar. This one, as I said, is fairly easy. You're going to get the breaker bar in there, break it loose, and that's that. The other one, a little bit tougher to get to, we're going to use an extension on the breaker bar. Just going to use the short extension on the breaker bar, and that is just enough. When this is all attached, that's going to be just enough to get back there, get in on that bolt, and break it loose. You can then use, I have a flexible ratchet, a flexible socket to snake back there and actually loosen it. Both bolts removed. The last part is to wrestle this out of here, and it's just a matter of kind of pushing the wires aside that you already took off, and just kind of jiggling around till you get the right angle. It's kind of a little bit of a puzzle piece here. And there we go. Right, there's a view of the engine and the flywheel with the starter removed. The next step is to put the new starter in where we just took the old new starter ready to go in. And we'll just kind of wrestle it in the same way that we got the old one out and hope that everything fits here. And there we go, and there's 2 little divots that hold it in the right place. The next step is to get both of those bolts in. Alright, we've got the new starter bolted into place. Got both bolts tightened down nicely with the breaker bar. Next step is going to be to connect both the wires. I have them slipped on here. We'll get the 2 nuts put on there, just like when we took it off. And we can just start putting everything back. Both connectors have been successfully connected. Next step, we're going to put back the cables we moved around. So I had moved this over to here to make more room. Make sure to put that back. Pop in the plastic connectors that you had popped out, which we had done just to get a little more flexibility with the battery cable there. And up next, we're going to put the battery tray back in, which is pretty self-explanatory, and reconnect the battery, and we should be in business here. Battery tray back in, batteries back in. We're almost just about home here. The one thing is you don't want to forget, before you connect the battery terminals back together, is to put in this stupid foam protector thing that goes around the battery. I don't know what its purpose is, fabric, foam, but it was in there, so I'm going to put it back in there. But you got to do that before you connect the battery terminals, otherwise you'll find yourself undoing them just to get the cover back on there. So put the foam thing on first before you put the battery terminals back connected to the battery. When we do connect the battery terminals, we're going to do the positive one first, and then the negative one. This is the first attempt to start it after we got it all put back together. Let's see what happens. Took a little long to start, but sounded real good. Starter sounded a little different from the previous one, but nice and quiet. I think we're good to go here. Hope this video helped you. Please like it if it did, and I look forward to any comments you have. Have a great day. Good luck with your repair.